we have several sessions ahead in this series. Now, some of you signed up for Package A. That is on Tuesdays, and Package B is on Thursdays. Package A is a little longer. It's a 2-hour session, and it's only 100 people max. We haven't fully maxed out yet, and we're still allowing registrations to occur. But there'll be more small group interaction and actually a bonus session after all of this next summer. And in Package B, they'll be similar to tonight in a sense, not as long, more of a lecture standpoint, but definitely follow-up reflection questions. And both groups are going to receive a personal assessment that you can take, and then we'll take again at the post after we're all done to help you see your own personal growth in this area. And that will be sent to you before our next session, our first official session, developing an anti-racist mindset. And we already got a chance to hear a little bit from our first presenter, but I'm going to allow Dr. Gomez to introduce herself and just give a brief overview of what you can expect at the end of this month.
Hey there, everybody. It's so nice to see everybody. Yes, I am Dr. Gomez. I am in the School of Education in Teaching and Learning, and our session, Developing an Anti-Racist Mindset, we're going to dive deeper into what it means to be racist, anti-racist, racism. We are going to unpack those terms in contemporary and historical context. We will take a historical walk back in time to explore the invention of whiteness in this country. I think this is what is lacking for many folks. We're going to look at how race has been and continues to be socially constructed and reinvented over and over again. And more importantly, why? Why does this happen? Why were racial categories constructed? What purpose did they serve in economics and social policies until today, right? Such as in our institutions of education and our apparatus of the state, right? So what is the purpose? And how the permanence of systemic stratification by race has been the driver of popular ideology in the psyche of US Americans, all of us, right? The ideology that I'm referring to is whiteness ideology. And as Dr. Dean Dare mentioned earlier, we're not talking about white people, we're talking about an ideology, a macro systems level ideology that we are socialized to live within, right? Throughout this session, we're going to do what I call turning the mirror onto ourselves in order to identify and unpack our individual and collective positionalities that influence and drive our conscious and unconscious biases, and how we center whiteness unintentionally and intentionally as the bar to which we are all measured, right? And then work toward effectively undoing that socialization into whiteness ideology. I have a lot more to say, but I know I have more colleagues and I'm running out of time.
Dr. Gomez,
I look forward to meeting all of you and on Zoom again.
I can tell you're ready to roll for the end of
I'm ready to go.
I gave Dr. Gomez a little extra time, but we're going to briefly hear from everyone you're going to learn from this year. Dr. Cormier. Are you with us, Dr. Cormier? Dr. Cormier is going to talk.
I'm here.
Okay,
here.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I didn't realize we was introducing ourselves. I thought it was
just real brief. I want them to get a chance to hear your voice and see your face.
Yes. Sorry, I'm in a quiet library, but I'll make it brief. Okay. I will be doing a presentation on implicit and unconscious bias and talk about how we can, use that knowledge to understand how we can engage one another, but also how sometimes we use those biases to hide behind and not necessarily be proactive or reactive to racist ideas or actions.
Thank you, Dr. Cormier. Sorry to put you on the spot there. We'll see you in November.
All right, see you in November.
Dr. Ferguson, your presentation for December.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tamika Ferguson. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Educational Leadership and the Interim Assistant Dean for Student Affairs and Inclusive Excellence. So I look forward to our session, mostly because we will really dive into the history of systemic racism, really thinking about the ways in which our society was constructed, how the permeance of race has invaded every factor of society, all of our social, economic, political, educational institutions, and how its existence creates these opportunities for us to perpetuate it rather than us creating ways in which we can stop it. But in that same conversation, we would talk about how historical oppression and the ways in which colonialism has erased culture and language, and how we're still seeing the impact of that today. And the goal through those examinations are to identify the opportunities that we can have to reconstruct and replace those narratives that continuously marginalize and oppress people of color and those from other marginalized backgrounds.
Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. In the new year, we're going to have a duo present to us, Dr. Wilkinson and Ms Braxton.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Myself and Giovanna Braxton, who I think is on the call as well, so I'm sure she'll wave to you all, are excited to be providing our session on advancing race conversations to assess the impact of power and privilege within organized systems. So critical to this assessment will be an exploration of whiteness, anti-Blackness, and people of color, and then how these groups exercise power and privilege differently within the systems in which they operate. And so additionally, participants will use an anti-racist lens to formulate and strategize power and privilege on how they can dismantle racism. So we're super excited to be seeing you guys at the top of the year, because we're going to make it, I promise.
Yeah, thank you both very much. Dr. Kuba.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Kuba, and I'm very excited to be here with you. So I'm a postdoctoral research fellow with the Metropolitan Educational Research Consortium. And like many of you, I was a teacher for 15 years. Working in ESL and special education, and witnessed many problems with the eligibility process for emergent bilinguals, so English learners, and saw how Black and Latinx students were overrepresented, particularly in self-contained classes. So I'll be drawing a lot from my practitioner lens, but also my research, which is looking to examine and enhance evidence-based practices and policies to mitigate disproportionality. And so in my session, I'll be looking at racializing of ability, so really drawing on the historical context, which is so important. Also, the racial segregation of students and how we use that within schools, communities, and classrooms, and applying an intersectional lens to really look at how students of color are represented and positioned within systems, and how they're mentioned in policy, whether they're invisible or viewed through a deficit lens. And so I'll be really asking you to think about your own context, both temporal and spatial context. And I'm really excited to be able to connect with you.
Thank you, Dr. Kuba, appreciate it. Next in March, we have Rodney Robinson. He is the 2019 National Teacher of the Year. And as you can imagine, Mr. Robinson is very busy, so he took the time to send us this video message to welcome you all.
My name is Rodney Robinson, and my session will be on designing anti-racist student support systems. There's an old African proverb that says, "Those who are not embraced by the village will burn it down or feel its warmth." In my session, we will examine support systems in the village necessary to create student success. We will focus on practices in the classroom that challenge and change the power structure in the school and the school community that are barriers to success for our students. We will discuss ways to empower our students through curriculum representation, culturally relevant practice, and an overall change in mindset of how they view their education. I look forward to meeting you all and sharing what I've learned in my 20+ years of classroom experience in Richmond Public Schools.
And we definitely look forward to hearing from Mr. Robinson in March. In April, Dr. Lou.
Hi, everybody. I'm Luciana de Oliveira, and I'm Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Professor in the Department of Teaching and Learning here at VCU. My area of focus is TESOL, as I mentioned in the chat box. And for my session, we are going to be analyzing current work environments using an anti-racist lens and identifying some actionable items needed to sustain anti-racist policies and practices. So primarily we will build upon the knowledge of systemic policies and practices that perpetuate racism by looking at, you know, your own environments and thinking about and considering how to build anti-racist environments that are sustainable, which is really critical for this work. So we'll be also doing some of those critical self-reflections that Dean Dare mentioned at the beginning of his session, and really thinking about how to sustain anti-racist systems.
Thank you, Dr. Lou. Appreciate you. And we'll be closing out this entire series in April with the gentleman who kicked us off. So, Dr. Dare, anything you'd like to say about your series in April and also bring closure to tonight?
Great, thanks so much. So in April, I'll be doing presentations on doing the work, allies, accomplices, and co-conspirators. And so the goal for this last session is to really bring everything together. From a critically reflective lens, how do we do anti-racist work? With this being the last session, I'll assume that people have already begun to do some anti-racist work. So how can we draw from what you all have learned throughout this series, what you've learned from the work that you've done, so that we can actually strengthen and improve that? But how do we also ensure that there's sustainability to that anti-racist work individually or and systemically? So we're looking forward to that. You know, as you all can see, we've got an outstanding group of professionals and scholars that are participating in this Becoming an Anti-Racist Educator series. You know, we have choice in how we want to spend our time and resources, and I'm so glad that you all have chosen to spend your time here. And I hope this initial session has met your expectations, and I'm confident that the future sessions will definitely meet your expectations. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all on a professional level, but I also appreciate you all on a personal level, because you're all educators. So you're here looking to do this work, right? And on a personal level that is going to improve the lives of children that look like my children. That's going to improve the lives of people who look like me, and who look like Lou, and who look like Rachel, and who look like Tamika, and looks like Rodney. And so this is personal work to me. This is personal work along with professional work. So I thank you, and I appreciate each and every one of you all. Thanks.